If we spend all of our waking years, all of our living years, all our creative years trying to be enough for white people, we will never create what we were put here to create. We will never create what we want to create. We will never be who we're supposed to be, auditioning for enoughness with white people. And I know that's strong, but I want to start off with a quote from Toni Morrison about racism that I think you'll find actually like enlightening and encouraging and stunning, actually. She says, the very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language and you spend 20 years trying to prove that you do. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Somebody says you have no kingdoms, so you dredge that up. None of this is necessary. There will always be one more thing. The very serious function of racism is distraction. So I want to talk about this from a creative lens, obviously. Toni Morrison is a writer. She is iconic. She is amazing. She is that girl. I love Toni Morrison. I love her writing, yes, but I love her more than her writing. I love who she is. I love who she represents herself as. I love what she's done for black women specifically. I love that she centers herself unapologetically. I love that she's not out here performing for whiteness or trying to be validated by white people. I love that she is unapologetically herself because there's nothing to apologize for, right? There's nothing to apologize for. And in her quote, she's talking about almost like apologizing for being. When we are so distracted with proving that our art is art, we will never create the art that we want to create. We will never create the art that our audience needs. We will always spend our lives obsessing over trying to finally be seen as enough by these people who are monsters. And I kind of just want to offer to you that you don't have to do that with your art. Your art is not here for people to understand. Those that get it will get it. Art is not for it to be over-explained. You can go into any museum and see any white artist art up there. No explanation, just exists, just gets to exist. And people sit in front of it and ponder like, wow, it's moving. But let a black person create something. If it's not centering whiteness or the white experience or the white gaze, then you're going to be tasked as a black artist with making that thing relevant for them. Your art is always relevant. Please don't misunderstand me. Your art is relevant for you first. Because it's for you first, it's relevant. And whoever likes it beyond that, wonderful. But do not be out here backbending and cartwheeling for white people trying to prove, hey, I am smart. I am intelligent. I am smart. I think about this moment that changed my life forever. I was in college and I was in an African-American literature class. And I cannot remember the story. Please forgive me. But the story was about muscadine grapes. And it was about an enslaved black man eating muscadine grapes, turning the grapes into wine. It was a whole process. And then what I loved most about the story is that when I was reading, I was like, what? And when I read it aloud, I was like, oh my God, this is how we speak. This is how we as black people speak, right? And I imagine that somebody wrote that story back then and somebody said to them, well, that's not real literature because you're not using this word correctly. I'm stuttering. You're not using this word correctly. You're not structuring your sentence in a way that white people say that you should structure your sentence. You're using AAVE or Ebonics. You're not using the king's English, as if any of us are, right? As if this is not a colonized. Anyway, as if I was not forced to speak this language. Okay, that's not my language. And so when I read that book, when I read that story, it opened my mind to the possibility that I can be a black, unapologetically black artist. That I don't have to center whiteness. I don't have to appease white people. I don't have to please them as my first audience so that my black audience gets to eat after them. And I think that a lot of artists, if we're not careful, can fall into the trap where not only will our art become permission slips to white people to see us as human, but then we start to also put those same chains around other black artists. How dare you represent us like this? Talk about that with Abbott Elementary, with the principal, right? How dare you represent us like this? How dare you show these tacky ghetto people online? No one gonna, well, you know people just like that in your regular life. Like there's this performance that we do for whiteness because we think that if I act like them, they'll see me as human, but they're not even humane. They're not even human. They are a violent bunch. You know what I It never ends. There will always be one more thing, like Toni Morrison said, right? I mean, I guess you can dance, but not like that. Or, we'll use the black people for this specifically. Like, you can be this, but you can't be that. Like, black people get to create whatever they want in a world without whiteness. What would you create in a world without whiteness? That's the question I want to ask you. If you weren't worried about what white people thought about their rules, about their rules about anything, language, anything, what would you create? If you didn't need the permission of white people, if you were not worried about people taking your things seriously as a black person, what would you create? And I'm just asking you that question because there are people who live like that every day. But Toni Morrison is somebody that I love because she said, forget the white gaze. Forget the white narrative. Forget them. Forget white people's permission. I'm creating what I want to create regardless. She says that she created for black people, not to speak for black people. So let me read you some quotes that I got from this. I watched a documentary on Toni Morrison. I forget the name now, but I'm gonna put it in the description below. Excellent documentary. Using her, like, she was in the documentary, so I recommend it. Remove the white gaze. She says, I didn't want to talk for black people, but to black people. And I love how she said that because she was not trying to be the intermediate person between white people and black people. She wasn't trying to prop herself up as the good Negro, the safe Negro, the safe black woman, right? The woman that white people feel safe around them. Because she didn't center whiteness, they saw her as a threat. They saw her as an enemy. There was a reporter who told her basically that she would be more successful. Toni Morrison would be more successful if she centered white people in the white gaze and the white perspective. As if to say, this is what's missing. This is the secret ingredient that's missing from your art. And if you did this, you'd be more successful. Well, one, we know that's not true, right? Because, once the white gatekeepers take the fangs out of you, like water your stuff down, they're only going to use you as much as you're useful to them, right? Toni said, forget that. I'm going to be who I am. I'm going to create what I want to create, regardless of whether you like it or not, whether you understand it or not. I'm not going to over-explain. If you really think about her books and how punchy they are and in your face they are and how honest they are, if she were to explain and center whiteness as the lens to look at her books through, her books would probably be way longer because she would be over-explaining certain things or using flowery language. And using flowery language kind of dilutes the medicine with which she speaks. And I think that's the goal, right? It's to disempower you. It's to remove the power from you. It's to keep using them as your gatekeeper. White people want to present themselves as the one you need to ask permission from, the one you get paid by, the one who you lend your art to. They center themselves in everything, even your language. You can't structure a sentence like that. Yes, I can. Because black people have their own rules with English. This language that was forced on me. This language you wouldn't let us read. Hello? Like, this language I carry with me, AAVE, Ebonics, whatever you want to call it, like, is the oral tradition of the people I come from. It's my legacy. It's something you want me to put down and be ashamed of. And Toni Morrison said, I'm going to double down on that. I'm going to double down on that. Stop creating art for the white gaze. We don't need any more of that for the end of the world. We don't. Stop over-explaining things to people who don't want to understand you. There will always be one more thing. Someone who is denying you your humanity outright will never give it to you. Someone who is looking for a reason to dehumanize you will dehumanize you, period. It doesn't matter. It's an endless task. And Toni Morrison says that to us to say, stop wasting your precious energy and create something. Stop wasting your energy begging white people to accept you. And they never will. Let's start here. Let me hold your hand. What they say? Let me hold your hand with a napkin in between. We can hold hands. Let me hold your hand. White people don't see you as human. You might know some white people who do, but generally speaking, the people here do not see you as human. They see you as a product. Shout out to Bourbon Bougie. She talks about like wife appliances. Black people were brought here as appliances to make other people comfortable, to make other people entertain other people, right? Our art was never supposed to entertain us. Our art was never supposed to center us for them. They brought us here to to make beautiful things for them to enjoy that we will never be able to enjoy. And because they're a super surveilling people, like they have to have their hands in everything. They got to know who everybody is, what's going on. They got to know, like, they're just so nosy because they're paranoid, right? They fear what they've been doing to other people finding them. And so they have to keep their finger on our pulse. And if they cannot decode our language, if they can't figure out what we're talking about in our stories, if they can't understand, then they feel scared because they feel like they're losing control, and they should lose control because they never could control you. The goal is control, not expression. The goal is to distract, to stop you from meeting the parts of you that need to be met, to stop you from expressing yourself honestly. They're doing all of that so that you live in fear. You're always second guessing. Am I a good enough writer? I don't have a good handle on this language. That's not your fault. Use the language you use. Why is that less than? Why is that less than? Even calling something standard English. Ugh, yuck. Because English is, whatever. Anyway, that's a whole other conversation for another day. It's linguistic conversation. We'll come back to that. We'll circle back. But like, no, this is about centering yourself. This is about making art for you. Art for the people who get you. Art for people just like you. Art for people who get it. And those that don't get it, that's not who you're creating for. And I think that everybody else gets to do that. The white folks here get to be human. The white folks here get to create whatever they want to create. Meanwhile, we're burdened and tasked with having to make sense to people. Stop trying to make sense and just make something. Make something for your people. You are a sovereign person. You don't have to ask these people for permission. They think you dancing and winding your waist is ghetto. They think that you dancing and moving your body sensually means that you want someone to harm you. Like, these are the people we're talking about. They think you being a sovereign being, moving your body in a way that feels good to you means that that it invites somebody to you. No, that's because they're predators. I'm just gonna say it. They are predators, okay? And they're looking to distract you from doing the work that you know that you're put here to do. So I love Toni Morrison, again, for a lot of reasons, but she was so clear. She was so clear that she was not here to make sense to white people. I love that about Toni Morrison. She remained raw and honest, and she held nothing back. She was criticized for not centering and including the perspective of white folks. The reporter said, once she did that, once she centered white people, then she'd be successful. If you pay your dues to white people, then you'll be successful. How many know that that's not true? There's always one more thing, because they're liars. Ask folks who are from this land. Ask the indigenous folks in this land. They are liars. There's always one more thing. They're liars. You'll spend your entire life performing for whiteness. And then at some point you forget who you are. You forget your own language. You forget your own thoughts, your own perspectives, your own beliefs, your own values, because you've been performing whiteness. You've been performing good black Negro for these white people to be comfortable. Let them be uncomfortable. You're not here to make nobody comfortable. That's what our ancestors had to do. They were forced to do that. You don't have to do that no more. Stop making them comfortable. Stop it. It's beneath you. Because your imagination is so far beyond what they can imagine. They imagine death and destruction and enslavement and stealing and lying. They can only imagine destruction and violence. And you can create whole worlds with your mind. And you're like, oh, let me ask this white person for permission. No, the worlds they want to create don't even have you in them. You're not even in their world. And they want you to center them in yours. She says, write the book you want to read. Write the book that you needed. Write the book you want to read in the way that you want to write it, in the way that you want to read it. Stop. Like, I think about even the multiple ways we perform whiteness in our own artistry. Excuse me. Oh. Mm-hmm. I think about the ways that we perform whiteness in our own artistry, including there are people who use a lot of descriptive language, right? But there are some people who feel forced to because they feel like that's the right way to write. The right way to write is the way that you write. It's that simple. The right way to do a thing is the way you do a thing. That's it. I think because of schooling, especially like art school and stuff like that, where creativity can be encouraged and inspired. It can't be taught. Like your specific kind of artistry can't be taught. It's to be experienced. You have to live your life and experience life. And then that helps you to create the art that you're supposed to create. I hope that makes sense. You live life. You allow life to mold you, shape you. You allow the experiences of people to mold you and shape you and inspire you. And you create from that inspiration, right? My perspective is not going to include white people because I'm not white. I also don't have a lot of white friends. I don't, you know what I mean? Like I'm from a very black place, a very black family, and I'm a black person. And so that is my perspective. And I also understand that blackness is not a monolith. I'm talking all black experiences, not just like, oh, the stuff that's, talked about, the stuff that Oprah puts a book club thing on it, to the things sold locally in your own Barnes & Noble store. Everything in between. We need art, all of it, all the narratives, all the stories, all the narratives, all the stories. I'm thinking and speaking at the same time because I'm thinking about how me reading that book in college was the preservation of culture. And I imagine how many people told that person, you're not allowed to write like that because that's not standard English, right? But that's our heritage. That's our history that they want to erase because it's not white enough. You could be literally capturing cultural things that we might lose by writing your story or singing your song, whatever you're doing, taking the picture, whatever it is. Maybe you've been tasked with archiving, with capturing, with witnessing, so that we don't lose our history. We don't lose our culture. All this assimilation has done horrible things to black people specifically. We've lost so much of ourselves. And I understand why it was pushed for. I understand why it was fought for. But I also understand that if you read Martin Luther King's journals before he passed away, he also was onto it. Oh, this doesn't seem like a pretty good idea, actually. I think we may have missed the mark here. Why? Because in order to be accepted by white people, in order to be approved of by them, it costs you your life. It costs you your language. It costs you your dress, your thoughts, the way that you move, what you believe, what you value. They make you value what they value. They make you prioritize and center what they prioritize and center. They make you forget what you value. You changing your morals and values and ethics because you're trying to be approved of by them and they don't have none. They got you worried about being a good black person and they're not even good, period. They're not good, period. And what is a good black person to them? Someone who is docile. Someone who is not courageous. Someone who don't rock the boat. Someone who complies. That's what they think a good black person is. That's what you want to be? No. For a lot of us, we're called to disrupt. We're called to do the scary, dangerous thing. We're called to go against the grain so that we don't forget who we are and all this assimilating and all this surviving that we got to do. All this code switching, all this putting down ourselves, putting down our elders. You talking down on AAVE and your grandma spoke like that. How dare you? How dare you? How dare you? You curse your grandmother's tongue. How dare you? She gave you language. It's fascinating to me. And it enrages me. If you can't tell, I'm pretty pissed. Remove the white gaze and be free. Toni Morrison says, my world is black. My world is a black world. If you could create specifically in your black world, for your black world, not trying to make blackness sweet to white people, not trying to make blackness palatable, not trying to make it enjoyable for white people or for, financial gain. If you could create for a black world, what would you create? Not auditioning for white people. We do a lot of self-censoring. We do a lot of self-criticism, a lot of self-denial, and then denial of other people, of their right to be human and express themselves fully because we're afraid of what white people will think of us. Why do you care what monsters think about you? You're not a monster. They don't like signs of life. You are a sign of life that they could not snuff out or kill. That's why you enrage them. Not because you're less than. Not because you have no talent or you're not good you're really good at this. Art is supposed to move. It's supposed to shock. It's supposed to stun. It's supposed to make angry if that's what it's supposed to do. If you see yourself in my art, don't be mad that you win it. Your job is not to coddle the feelings of the people who hate you. As an artist, that is not your job. Your job is, as Nina says, to reflect the times, whatever that looks like for you. And Toni says, there will always be, Toni Morrison says there will always be one more thing. The very serious function of racism is distraction. If you spend your entire life begging white people to approve of you, to like you, please, please like me, black people, please, please, you'll never be who you're supposed to be. You'll never be you. You will always be someone small in a white man's imagination. You'll always be this big. You'll always be something they don't fear. Who cares if they fear you? For what? Telling the truth? They should fear that. Who would be afraid of the truth except a liar? Who would be, like, seriously, someone who is invested in lying, hiding the truth. They make you the enemy for making them uncomfortable. They should be uncomfortable. Uncomfortable. Hold on, my battery's about to die, so I think I need to change. Hold on one sec. Okay, I think we're back. But yes, your job as an artist is not to ask people permission. Your job as an artist is not to appease white people. I know that because we live in the West and we've been enslaved and indoctrinated for so long to believe that our only purpose here is to make white people comfortable. I know that we think that that's the case, right? Oh, I'm a good white person, white man. I'm not like those other ones. No, I'm just like those. Yep. Just like them. Now what? Right? Because then we start disparaging and talking down on people that we love and know. Again, you talking down on your grandmother's tongue. You would never say that to your grandmother's face. That somehow she is beneath whiteness and somehow she is, because she's not palatable to whiteness, that she doesn't get to exist. She doesn't get to speak. She doesn't get to express herself in her natural and authentic ways. I love that she talks about this idea of the master narrative. She's talking to an interviewer and he's like, what do you mean by that? And she said, of course, the white male gaze, duh. Like the master narrative is the white male gaze. They're the people in power here, in air quotes. Annoyingly, they're the people in power here, right? And so everything has to be filtered through their lens, through their permission. Everything has to be a permission slip to them. If they're not represented or centered or cared for or coddled, then you probably won't be very successful here in the white market specifically, right? And I say that to say because Toni Morrison had to be honored outside of her own country, a Nobel Peace Prize outside of her own country to be honored for the work that she did, right? Because she did not play the white man's game. But eventually, like, she played the long-term game, staying true to herself, and that paid off. But she had to stay the course and stay herself. One thing I came to learn was that Toni Morrison was not just an amazing writer, she was also an amazing editor, and she inspired people, asked people like Angela Davis to write a book. Angela Davis wasn't even going to write a book. She inspired Toni Morrison to write a book about her life. Toni Morrison was so unapologetically black and then used the power that she got, the money she got, the accolades, the respect she got to bring other black women up with her, who the white world specifically hated, deemed an enemy. She was in the corner of people who were counted out by the white world, who literally, like, she hung out with a bunch of badasses. You feel me? Like, she hung out with people who said, white girl, forget about, who cares about any of that, right? And was successful. Iconic. Okay. Oh yeah, The Bluest Eye. Okay, one thing I want to talk about, The Bluest Eye. That book, game-changing. But I did not know what inspired the book. So in the documentary, Toni Morrison talks about a friend she had as a child. And when she was a child, her friend told her that she no longer believes in God. And so Toni Morrison asks her why. And the friend says, because I've been praying to God to give me blue eyes, and God has not given me blue eyes. I forget how long she asked, but God didn't answer her prayer. And because God did not give her blue eyes, she stopped believing in God. That was the inspiration of The Bluest Eye. And I love how she centered black girls' experience. I feel like I'm gonna cry. Ooh. I love how she centered black girls' experiences, right? And it's something that a lot of us can resonate with. If I could just achieve being pretty like this, then maybe I'll be treated with respect. Maybe I will be loved. Maybe then I'll be pretty. Maybe then people might want me, right? Being taught that black is ugly. You know, that whiteness is what's beautiful and appealing. Light skin is what's beautiful and appealing, right? Like, you know, light eyes, all these different features, being really thin, like all these things created by white men. Had this little girl thinking that she was ugly and that God didn't exist because God refused to make her beautiful. And she remembered that. And she used her own life's experiences, her own Black life's experiences to write her stories. She used her own life's material as inspiration. And that was enough. She knew that her life was a wealth of experiences that she can pull from to create beautiful things. I want to give to you that you might not need another course. You might not need another retreat. You might not need another book. You need to look over your life and see what you're inspired to create from the pain, the joy, the conversations. That conversation you can't forget about that you had with your friend in elementary school. What's that about? That experience that you can't put down. It's meant to be. She took that bitter experience and made it medicine. She literally alchemized her friend's trauma and pain because she loved her friend. She loved her friend. She loved Black women. I love that she also, Toni Morrison, obviously not her name, but she was talking about reinventing herself every 10 to 15 years. And that was advice from Sonia Sanchez talking about Toni Morrison, but I thought that was really cool. And I thought about this myself. I thought about coming up with a pen name for myself. Alecia Renece is my name, right? And so, but I love the idea. Toni Morrison said that she created this character. I keep saying caricature. I don't mean that. Character. She created this character, this writer, to be who she was when she's writing, and then to be able to put that down when she's at home, right? Who she is out here. And other people have done this. Donna Summer has done this. Nina Simone did it for other reasons. But Black women, there's a long history of Black women renaming themselves, reinventing themselves, using a pen name that they can use so they can separate the brave and honest person they are. You know, not saying that they're not brave and honest at home, but also have that separate life at home by themselves, you know? We're also going to talk about Donna Summer because that's another icon that has been inspiring me lately. But yes, so renaming oneself, reinventing oneself. Toni Morrison was unafraid of reinventing herself. And I love that. I love that. Okay. Ooh. Renaming yourself is a way of dividing your life. That's what she says. Dividing your life from the writer, the editor, this person that people know in the world as the artist, this famous person, to like allow her to keep her humanity to herself. So again, making art for the end of the world that we're talking about. You don't have to give everybody every piece of yourself. You get to have that to yourself. And I've thought about renaming myself, and I don't know what name I would use. Nothing has like stood out to me lately, but I've been thinking about that. Would it be easier for me to use a pen name to say everything I want to say? Yes, right? Because it doesn't feel like everything is on the line, right? It doesn't feel like my whole being is on the line, to be honest. But I also don't find anything wrong with using your name if you want to use your name. But I also understand like people taking a new name to represent a new phase of life, a new beginning, and also like creating like this, I don't want to say like alter ego, but this persona that I get to hide and hide myself and to keep myself safe. My real vulnerable human self safe, even though the artist self may be at this interview, right? This artist self is protecting or shielding this tender me, this tender child me on the inside. And I love that she created her safe boundaries for herself to be like, this is where I stop and this is where Toni Morrison begins. I think that's really, so even if you're not going to rename yourself, really think about that. Oops, excuse me. How can you reclaim your humanity for yourself, right? Where is the line for you between the what you want to show the world, right? And what you want to keep to yourself, what you want to keep for yourself and for the people that know you most intimately, you know? To us, she was Toni Morrison. To her children, she was mommy, right? Or, you know, like, so being able to separate yourself and not see yourself as just this one thing, but as multiple things, multifaceted, right? I love that she was able to do that for herself and to keep some of herself for herself. Yes. One thing she talked about poverty, I thought this was really interesting. It has nothing to really do with anything, but we're just vibing right now. Reclaiming, she says back then, there was no shame in being poor. There was no pressure to get ahead, right? I love that because in this distracting way, we're almost being distracted with white supremacy in the way that they know that we're struggling, we're desperate, we're poor. And instead of doing what's right, they're just going to dangle a carrot in front of our face and say, if you perform this, if you perform well for me, if you play the game good enough, you too can be successful. But I love for her, like, she was never creating to get out of something. You know what I mean? She was never creating as a means of like getting ahead. It was creating because she has to create, because she's being honest. That's what that was about. And I love that that was her compass, her honesty, not this wanting to be, oh, I want to be famous, I want to be rich, I want to be wealthy. Not saying that she never thought about that, but that wasn't the motivation. And it also wasn't where she came from, where people were so obsessed with becoming and not being, right? She was able to be. And I think that's huge. I think that's huge because I imagine if she was trying to become something, she might have been tempted to center the white gaze, right? Because if you really would just want to be wealthy, you can play the game. Just play the game, right? But if you want to be honest, if you want to be authentic, if you want to be an artist, if you want to be yourself, it's gonna require bravery. It's gonna require things that you might not need if you just needed a permission slip from a white person. Hold on, I'm gonna open the windows real quick. Sorry, y'all. Okay, yes, yay. Okay, that's a little better. All right, so yes. So she came from a place where people were not striving. It wasn't a lot, it was just being. And from that being, she was able to get rich soil and rich life material to pull from to create. So in her living inspired her creating. And it was beautiful. Okay, so when she wrote the book Paradise, Texas Corrections banned Paradise from their prisons because they thought it could start a riot. Her response, so she wrote a book called Paradise, and it's amazing. Because when I would see that, I'm like, oh man, that must have been so discouraging, right? Dang, your book was banned. That sucks. Her response, Toni Morrison said, well, how powerful is that? Think about that. She wrote art. She made art that she was proud of. And she would have been well within her rights if she had said, oh, they got me messed up. How dare they do this to me? Blah, blah, blah. Right? Sorry, I got put on chapstick. How dare they ban my book? How dare they stop money from coming in? How dare they do this to me? Right? And instead of saying any of that, sorry, I'm pretty sure you heard my chapstick. Instead of saying any of that, she said, oh, wow, how powerful is that? As if to say, how powerful am I that I could write something that Texas Corrections would ban? How powerful am I that I could string together words and bind them together and it could be banned by Texas Corrections? How iconic am I? How powerful am I? How amazing am I? I love this attitude she takes. A rejection from whiteness is not rejection. It was almost like a confirmation that she was doing the right thing. That her words could start a riot, honey. Her words could incite that power within somebody who has been incarcerated. Her words could inspire hope and rage and how iconic am I? How powerful am I? And I want to offer that to you. When you're being unapologetically Black, when you're being unapologetically yourself, when you're being human, and you're creating art that you love, and somebody despises it because it's too Black, or it's too ghetto, or it's, it ruffles people's feathers. How powerful are you? How powerful are you that your words, your music, your dance, your work could inspire rage within somebody, could inspire hope within somebody, could inspire sorrow or guilt? That means you communicated correctly. So all this talk about you're not using the correct use of this verb, you're not blah, 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 we don't do double negatives. The message still got across, didn't it? Okay. They're not that confused. Can't be that confusing if it got banned. You know what I mean? How powerful am I? How powerful is that? And she laughs when she says that. I'm telling you, Toni Morrison is that girl, okay? So she wasn't afraid to talk about the pain and using pain to bring people to love. She showed the magic of your own world and made it amazing. These are people talking about Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison took the magic of our everyday world and made it magical and made it amazing. She made the backdrops of her stories, I was gonna say movies, of her stories, Black life, and made it magical. Took what was ordinary for us. And the thing is, because white people don't have the eyes to understand it, what Black women specifically create that's mediocre is 10 times better than anything. Like we really downplay what we be doing. Like, oh, is it? No, how powerful are you? Black girl creative, Black woman creative, Black woman artist. How powerful are you? That the whole world is trying to silence you. How powerful are you? That the whole world is trying to discredit you and your language and your speak. and your wisdom. How powerful. When you get that, and it's hard. I'm not even gonna, I'm not gonna pretend that it's not. It's difficult. It's hard to hear that criticism. It's hard to keep going when you keep getting punched down. But if your work is inspiring emotion in people, and not like you're trolling people or, harming people, if it's inspiring emotion, that's what your art is supposed to do. Art is not supposed to make people comfortable. It can. It can potentially, like, a couch could be art, right? It can make people comfortable. Whatever. Like, a song can become comforting to a person because the person that it's associated with, right? But art moves. Comfort is still a feeling, right? Comfort is still a feeling. What white people want is for you to be emotionless, to be nothing, paste. You know what I mean? Like just product, just content in a bowl or a container, content like water in a cup, content, right? But not an artist, not an individual, but something to say. They want to take the fangs out of you. They want to dilute your art to make you more palatable for them, because they don't have the taste buds, honey. They don't have the range. They don't have the range, so they got to water down what you're saying to make sense to them. And you're thinking you're inferior. Don't disrespect yourself like that anymore, okay? So yes, when you speak the truth, you bring others with you. You bring the world with you. When you speak the truth, you bring others with you. You bring the world with you. There is freedom in Toni Morrison's language. She helped people to feel human. And so Toni Morrison said something. She says, I was loose. I probably overdid it, but I don't regret it now. Toni Morrison lived. You hear me? Lived. And regrets nothing. Lived a big, juicy, beautiful life. Was able to be human. Allowed herself to be human in every aspect of her life. Allowed herself to make mistakes, to not be the savior for the world or black people, to not be this intermediate like person, intermediary, whatever, mediator, a mediator between the white world and the black world. She did not want to lay on her back to be a bridge for white people to understand black people. She didn't care about any of that. She didn't use her resources, her wealth, her energy for any of that. She used her energy to bring fire, to bring it straight forward, to tell the truth, and to live fully. She didn't keep herself bottled up in her writing. She didn't keep herself bottled up in her editing. She didn't keep herself bottled up in her artwork or her craft or her work. She was a fully expressed human being, and I love that. Some writing advice from Toni Morrison. Don't write what you know. Write and imagine and invent. She says, don't write what you know. Write and imagine and invent. I think that's so dope. I think, I love that advice. I think it still would be beneficial to share what we know, because oftentimes our perspective, our wisdom is not held as sacred. And also, Black people are not just here to be your books. They're not just here to be your wisdom, right? They're not just here to share our wisdom willy-nilly. We're also here to create and invent ourselves. Even though they want to keep us out of that world of inventing and creating, Black people create worlds all the time. That's how we survive. We don't survive in this world that's happening. We create our own worlds to survive in. We have our own communities. We have our side projects, our side hustles, we put down our code switching at the door. We live a whole different reality than what people see us living in the world. Does that make sense? Like, we've always been tasked. There's so many ways that people have said it. Walking in a crooked room, code switching, right? Like, there's so much energy we put into surviving, right? That sometimes we forget to be human, to be ourselves. Put that down at the door. Put that down on the bus on the way home. Listen to, like, take off the armor on the drive home. Listen to music, right? Like, but become human again. Become human again. And also create what you want to create. Invent. We have been inventors. That's all we do is create and invent. Create and invent. Keep doing that. Toni Morrison's work was centered around her gifts, her editing, her writing, her being honest, her taking up space, her being unapologetic. All of that served her well. All those things are looked down on Black women. Think about that. Black women can't be loud. Black women can't be opinionated. Black women can't be sure. Black women can't have an attitude. Black women can't be sexy. Black women can't be, can't be unapologetic. Like, people expect Black women to walk through the world apologizing for existing, apologizing for speaking and taking up space, apologizing for disagreeing, apologizing for believing that I get to create what I want to create. and not center whiteness, you know? And using all of herself, she used all of herself in her work. And I think that's so encouraging that we don't have to cut off parts of ourselves that we find ugly or that we don't find interesting. We don't have to be ashamed of those stories. That story about the kid, the girl who stopped believing in God, could be a shameful story. Could be a story that she never wanted to tell again because it was too painful to hear again, or too damning to speak about, too harmful. And she said, no, I'm gonna look the pain in the face and make it human. I'm gonna look that pain in the face, because the shame honestly was not her friends. Those were wounds that she acquired because of white supremacy. Her friend did not hate herself. She was taught to hate herself. Nobody comes out the womb hating themselves. That doesn't happen. She was taught to hate herself. She was taught somewhere that having blue eyes mean you're beautiful. Having brown eyes means you're not beautiful. That wasn't Toni's shame to bury. It was her shame to expose. And in exposing that shame, she freed all of us. She freed all of us. She wasn't afraid to be black, to create without a filter and without centering, being understood. She did not make it her life's duty to be understood, especially by white people. Her mission on earth was not to be understood. It was to create. It was to be. It was to take up space and to be. And again, going back to that quote, right, about racism, the only job of racism is to distract, because it's not real. It's not true. It's not based on anything except opinion and hatred. That's it. That's it. That's it. So since we know that already, since we know it's stupid, why are we dedicating all of our waking hours, all of our genius, all of our brilliance, all of our time and creativity and energy trying to justify our humanity to people who don't see us as human in the first place? 3/5 a person. 3/5 a person. I'm never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget that we were stolen and dragged across the Atlantic Ocean. I'm never going to forget. Why would I try to appeal to those people? Murderers, thieves, liars, imperialists, colonizers, disease spreaders, sexual assaulters. Those people, I'm going to try to present myself as humane. People who see land, I'm looking at trees, who see land and think, oh, how can I make money from this? Those people, not people who honor the land, who honor nature. What? She helped other black women create. And the question I have for you is, what can you do from where you are? What can you do from where you are? Toni Morrison, she was a writer, and she also saw other black women who needed she had a relationship with black women, and then said to them, you know what, I'm a writer. You can be a writer too. She didn't gatekeep. She didn't hoard resources. She helped other black women to create. What can you help other black women to create? It doesn't mean you have to start a course or be an instructor or something like that. Do you know a friend who has a dream that you can help realize? Do you have an elder who still wants to do something and you have the tools to help them do it? What other black woman can you bring with you in the end of the world? Can you link arms with? Can you say, I've done this, I've climbed the mountain and been back, I'm gonna bring you with me next time? That is our duty as artists. So with protest, you need someone keeping record. Toni Morrison helped people keep record. Toni Morrison was almost the record keeper. In her stories, yes, but also helping other people create their own stories, create their own books, tell their own stories. Without her, we would not have these books. And I had no idea. So who can you bring along with you? Toni Morrison wasn't afraid to take up space, and she fought for what she deserves and fought for justice. And if you have ever seen Toni Morrison on screen in an interview, she's so sure of herself. She's so comfortable. She's so seated. She's so sure. She is so sure. So somebody asked her, like, how do you choose to write? With all the things going on, how do you choose to write? She said, make a list of what you have to do and stick to that. As in, what you have to do, what you cannot not do. I cannot not create. I cannot not share. I cannot not sing. I cannot not dance. I cannot not laugh. I cannot not create. Do what you can't, do what you can't not do. Do what you have to do. We're assigned things that we have to do. Oh, you have to do X, Y, and Z. Says who? Says this person. You, in order to be a realized person, in order to be respected, you got to do X, Y, and Z, blah, blah, blah. Never once checking in with ourselves. What is something that I have to do that are non-negotiables for me? Something that I cannot not do. For me, I cannot not sing. I need to sing. It helps me to move energy out of my body. It helps me to ground myself. It helps me to create. And it's fun. It's fun. I love singing. I love harmonizing with myself. I love singing. I cannot not write or get ideas down. In my phone, I have tons and tons of notes on my notes app. If you're a writer, you know what I'm talking about. Just notes apps forever, for days, for days, for days. I cannot not create. I cannot not run. Don't mean I'm writing a book. Could be I wrote a line and I had to say it. I have to get that energy out of me. When I feel that creative fire, I got to put pen to paper, voice to mic, whatever it is, like a voice note, make a sketch of something so I don't forget it. So I don't forget this fire that I'm capturing, right? Do the thing that you have to do, the thing that calls to you, even if you feel like it's silly, even if it doesn't make sense to other people, even if other people think it's wrong. Toni Morrison was told she was wrong her entire career and wasn't. We would not have her art if she believed that she was wrong. Women often need permission to do the thing you want to do. Just step into it. Toni Morrison shows us to just step into it. She wasn't afraid to talk about the hard things. She wasn't afraid to talk about the hard things. And beloved, she gives humanity to enslaved Africans. Our ancestors are humanized. Our ancestors are humanized. Shout out to Gatsby Oshun. She talked about this on her channel before about beloved. And in the documentary, she also talks about this. But Toni Morrison was sitting at, I guess, like her lake house, and this woman comes out of the water and sits down. And that inspired Toni Morrison to write the story, right? And in the story of Beloved, it talks about a woman, a real woman, who unalived one of her children because she was escaping enslavement. And I guess they caught up to her. She unalived one of her children, right? Because she wanted her children to be free. And so people will hear that story and think, what an awful mom. What mom would do that? Lots of our ancestors did that. Read some narratives. Lots of our ancestors did that. They thought it better that their children be unalived than have to go through what they went through. That is mercy. That is an act of mercy. And hardly Black women are seen as merciful people. We're hardly ever seen as a hero. We are always villainized. And they dehumanize that woman. And I'm going to get her name specifically. But this is based on a true story. And so she took that story, Beloved, and humanized our ancestors. Humanized their experiences. She used history. She used our history, Black history, the history that we're ashamed of. The parts that we're taught are ugly. The parts that we're told to be ashamed of, to never speak of again. She used that as material. And she was a realist. Because that was our real lived experiences. Not the experience that makes white people comfortable. Not even the one that makes us comfortable. The hard, cold things that we have buried deep inside, right? Toni Morrison, digs that up. Excavates that. It makes something beautiful out of it. And only in the way that only she can, right? But you can too, in the way that you can. In only the way that you can. And this is reassuring to me because I have some of my material can feel dark. As a bright, bubbly person, a lot of my material can feel dark, and it could feel like nobody wants to hear sad stuff. But yes, they do. Because the bluest eye changed my life. As somebody who hated my features as a kid. As somebody who prayed to God to make me look different. The bluest eye changed my life. As somebody who cut out pictures in a magazine and put them together. And I talked about this before. Dealing with my own self-hatred. Put them in a magazine, cut out pieces of the magazine, the eyes I wanted, the hair I wanted, the skin I wanted, the body I wanted, right? The clothes I wanted, all this stuff, just like making myself like an avatar. And like, God, please. Begging and pleading God to make me look like this collection of advertisements, because that's exactly what it was. This collection of advertisements, right? To make me look like this person. And it didn't work. And I thought God hated me. I thought that I was God's least favorite because I look like how I look. And as a kid, people made fun of me. People teased me. I have a big smile. If you haven't seen, people call me, like they say I look like a horse or a monkey, whatever, blah, blah, blah. I'm too tall. Little boys were calling me manly. Just being so misunderstood and not feeling pretty. And I knew that if I was pretty, then people would be nice to me. And so I asked God to make me pretty so people would stop teasing me. I'm glad God ain't do it. I'm glad it wasn't going to work. But like, I'm glad it didn't work because I now see myself and I love myself so much. I cut my hair so I can see myself. And I can see myself and I love myself so much. I love myself so much. I wish I had somebody telling me like, you're made up of the people who love you. How could you be hideous? I look just like my mom. I look just like my dad. I look just like my grandmommy. I look just like my grandma. I look just like my granny, who I knew, my great-grandmother. I look just like them. Just like my cousin so-and-so, my aunt so-and-so. I have my Auntie Marty's hands. I have nails missing, but I have my Auntie Marty's hands. I do. And sometimes my Auntie Jackie's hands. And sometimes from the side, I can see my mom. And from the other side, I can see my dad. How can I be ugly? Right? But as a kid, I wanted to change. I wanted to be anything other than me. I couldn't see the beauty in me. And even though it took me a long time, it took me a few years, and then like even reading the book, hearing other people's experiences, them removing that shame and allowing that shame to be in the light freed me. And I think that's what Toni Morrison did for all of us. She freed all of ourselves. Sonia Sanchez says, she made us review and examine ourselves. She made us human again. She made us review and examine ourselves. She made us human again. What are you without your racism? This is iconic, basically like drag and speech that Toni Morrison said. Like, I'm paraphrasing, but if you have to stand on someone to make yourself big, you're not big, right? And who are you without all that? Who are you without all that extra stuff, that racism? Who are you without all of that? And she talks about this idea of a melting pot. Let me stick on this for a second. Who are you without your racism? Who are the people that we look to, I guess, like for approval or permission or whatever the heck? Who are they without their violence? Who are they without the fear they instill in other people? Who are they without their racism? A lot of times you'll find nothing. You'll find nothing there. There's nothing there. The threat of violence, yes, right? That's very real. But without that, who are they? Without that, who are they? They are liars. They're thieves. You see them for who they really are, not who they portray themselves to be or project themselves to be, right? We see them. We have the benefit of seeing them for who they really are, And that should be freeing. It's a gift to be able to see your enemy for who they really are, because you don't have to be scared no more. What do I have to fear except losing my life? What do I have to fear? They're small. They have to make me feel small to feel big. That means they're not big at all. That means I'm big. If they got to convince me that I'm small, that means I'm big in the first place. I'm a big deal. And Toni Morrison knew she was a big deal. One thing she said, I'm sorry, real quick, that stood out to me. She says, they always talk about America as the melting pot, right? Like the melting pot. And like, they say it as if like, oh, we're all, like mixed in together. And it's like this, like, I don't know, this evenly textured. I'm thinking about oatmeal for some reason. I'm thinking about like how I like oatmeal with lumps, right? I do. But there are a lot of people who like oatmeal, the same texture all the way through, the same whatever, blah, 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 no surprises, right? And so I think it's amazing because we don't realize blackness is not in that melting pot. Blackness is the pot. And that's what she says. Like, black folks are the pot that people melt into. Our labor, our resources, everything we built, everything we did. And they don't even acknowledge that they're in us. They're in the pot that we created, right? That we are the pot. We're the thing holding the thing together. I thought that was moving. So what are you without your racism? Toni owned that she was talented and she was rewarded and stood out for her bravery. She owned. She didn't play small. She didn't pretend to be small, No, she was a big deal. And she knew she was a big deal. And I think that a lot of white supremacist work is in convincing us to shrink. That if you stop being so proud, black people, we might let you in. If you stop being so, unapologetic, we might be your friend. Toni Morrison said, I know who I am. I know what I came here to do, and I'm going to do that. With or without your permission. Love that for her. Love that for her. She was more honored in the world than she was at home. Toni Morrison, because she didn't center whiteness, she did not get, all the proper accolades and all the rewards she should have gotten in America. America played in her face like they played in a lot of people's faces. Nina Simone's faces, Tina Turner's faces, Donna Summer's faces. There's so many people, black people specifically, who had to go out of the country. James Baldwin. There's so many black people who had to go out of the country to go find success. to go find success. Josephine Baker. The list goes on and on and on, right? And so because she wasn't, there's a scripture that says a prophet is hardly ever honored in his hometown or country or whatever it is. And Toni Morrison was a prophet. I don't care what you say. And many like her, right? Who are often disparaged to this day. But she was honored with a Nobel Peace Prize. So she was never given the due that she was due here. But it doesn't mean the world did not see her for who she was, did not honor her. You might not be rewarded where you think you want to be rewarded, right? But again, by who? These people who are monsters? I don't necessarily know that. I don't know that Toni Morrison was heavily concerned with white approval. It doesn't seem like she was, right? But I imagine there was some, like, ouch, some yikes. It's like, dang, y'all look over me after all I've contributed and done for black folks and black America and therefore America. Like, how dare you, right? But I'm glad that she did get her props. And there will always be someone else who sees what you're doing. There are, even with my own stuff, like when I think about my YouTube channel, whatever it is, when I think about my music, sure, there are people in my personal life that I want to care about my artistry, right? And they don't. And that sucks. And I honor that pain. I honor that. I get it. However, there are also a lot of people, which I am grateful for. There are a lot of people, who do see and acknowledge what I'm doing, who do celebrate me, and who do look forward to when I put out things, who do honor my honesty. I was having a conversation with a couple of people recently about how people really don't want the truth. They say that they want the truth, but hardly ever really want it. They want what makes people comfortable. The truth is hardly ever comfortable, ever comforting, ever convenient. It's never the right time to be honest or whatever. And so people don't really like honest people. But there are people who love that I'm honest. There are people who love that I don't. Sometimes I feel like, am I sharing too much? I don't know. Like, should I feel shame about this? Because I don't. Because people tell me I should feel shame about it, and I don't. And it's just like, but there are people who honor that I am unashamed in a lot of ways. And so for you as an artist, you might not get your parents' validation. You might not get your siblings' validation, your family's validation, your friends in your hometown's validation. You might not get that. But there are people who need what you are creating. There are people who need you. I imagine the girl who inspired Toni Morrison to write the book, The Bluest Eye, needed Toni Morrison's words, right? And it may have come decades later, but it came nonetheless, right? There are people that we can heal through our art, that we've met over our lifetime, and we don't have to beg them for their approval. Just create the art and let the art speak for itself. Let the art heal them. Let the art do what it's supposed to do. For some of my family, I had a family member tell me that my art career is not working. It's not working out because, like, it doesn't seem to be working out because you're not, like, rich and famous and signed or whatever, blah, 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 blah. And that hurt me. Because I put in a lot of work. I work really, really hard, and I care about what I do. And I don't go to nobody else's job and say, it's not working, huh? Like, I don't go to nobody else's job and poo-poo what they're doing. So why would you come to me and do that, right? However, like, it's interesting to see that some people start caring about you when you start becoming successful. When you start getting recognition, when you start getting accolades, now people want to join the bandwagon. Now people want to be like, oh, I always supported it, I always knew. Like, don't even worry about them people. Worry about you and the world you want to create, and the art you want to create, and the book you want to write, and the song you want to finish, and the note you want to sing. Don't even do the song, the note you want to sing, the next note. Focus on what brings you joy. Focus on what's honest. Focus on what you want to create. Stop being distracted by racism. Stop lending your services, your voice, your creativity to white folks. To quote Toni Morrison one more time, the very serious function of racism is distraction. It keeps you from doing your work. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. And pause real quick. Nobody else has to do that in this country. Think about that. Nobody else has to explain, white folks specifically. They don't have to explain their reason for living. They don't have to explain, right? Their reason for being, for existing. White people want you to explain to them why you deserve to exist, why you deserve to live, why you deserve to be treated like a human. And like I keep saying, if you're looking for a reason to dehumanize somebody, you're going to dehumanize them. Like Toni Morrison, let me finish. I'm getting ahead of myself. It keeps you explaining over and over again your reason for being. Somebody says you have no language, and you spend 20 years trying to prove that you do, proving that you do. What? Don't we do that? It's not Ebonics, it's AAVE. It's fine. Call it whatever you want to call it, right? But we're trying to make it legitimate for white people. We're trying to make it academic for white people. We're trying to make it legitimate for white people. We know it's legitimate because we use it. We never needed the permission of white people to speak. Okay. So somebody says you have no language and you spend 20 years proving that you do. So now we have science, we have, which is, again, not a bad thing. But just think about if we didn't care. What else we could have been created? What else could have been created instead of saying, well, the use of double negative is, and this is, I studied linguistics in college, right? Oh, the use of double negative is X, Y, and Z. It's like, no, like, it just is because it is. It's not because white people say it is. It is because we say it is. We never needed white people's permission anyway. And now they're using it wrongly, very badly, very disrespectfully, but now they're using it because it's social currency. Again, ghetto until proven fashionable or profitable. They had you despising your own language, and now they're butchering that stuff on TikTok, calling it internet speak, internet slang, or Gen Alpha slang. And you know that's your mother's tongue in their mouth. That's what racism does. Have you turning away from yourself while they steal from you, and you turn back and all your stuff is gone because you think you're less than them. Somebody says your head isn't shaped properly, so you have scientists working on the fact that it is. When we need other things, again, not downplaying the need for anthropologists and all those people, it's fine, whatever. But we also need other things that black people need specifically. And instead of lending their work to the black community, it's been lended to white people, funneled to them, our energy siphoned to prove to them something they knew is not true in the first place. Something they made up to support their racism. Something they made up to support how evil they were going to be regardless. Regardless. They're just going to find another reason. You cut off this reason, they're going to grow 2 more reasons. It's endless. It never ends. Stop giving your creative energy to people who hate you. Stop it. You're more sacred than that. You're more holy than that. And your people need you. Stop justifying yourself to people who won't see you as human regardless. Like, these people believe that people should be unhoused. These people believe that people should have to work for the rest of their lives. These people believe that people should have to eat horrible food that make them sick and live in places that are violent. People they believe that, and you're trying to reason with people who are unreasonable. People who enjoy people suffering. Somebody says you have no art, so you dredge that up. Meaning, like, so she said, let me put a pause there, an end quote there. I want to add to that. You also make your art whitewashed. You also have to make it understandable by other people. It's the same thing. They say you have no art, even though they all rapping our songs, they all dancing the way we dance, and they all wearing our fashion, they all wearing long nails and hoop earrings and now smacking their teeth like they understand what the heck that even is. It's all a lie, y'all. It's all a lie. Somebody says you have no kingdoms, so you dredge that up. None of this is necessary. Let me slow down. None of this is necessary. There will always be one more thing. There is no bottom to white people's violence and their dehumanization of other people. There's no end. Stop lending your energy, your creativity, your time, your effort to white people who hate you. Stop doing that. I think as we're creating art for the end of the world, they're the world we're trying to end. They created the world we're trying to end, and you're trying to appeal to these people? That doesn't make any sense. That doesn't make any sense. We need a new world, and your art can create that, but it can't create that appeasing and appealing to white people, violent white people who hate your guts, who hate your tongue, your laugh, your walk, your eyes, the gait in your walk, right? Who hate your hips, who hate you being happy and laughing and smiling. They don't see you as human. They never will. Because in order to harm people, you have to dehumanize them first in your mind. In order to hurt somebody, you gotta find reasons why they're less than you are, why they deserve less respect than you do. People who are looking for a reason to do that will always find one. You cannot outsmart someone who is hateful. It's not about smart. It's not about wisdom. It's not about logic or reasoning. It's about hatred. You cannot over explain yourself into getting people to not hate you. They have no reason to hate you in the first place, honey. Be free. That's all I'm gonna say is be free. Also, this I think I said this already. This comes from the book All the Black Girls Are Activists: A Fourth Wave Womanist Pursuit of Dreams as Radical Resistance by Ebony Janice. I don't know if you can see that. But we're going to go through this book together because there are so many juicy things in here. And I have a lot of, I don't know if you can see this, a lot of stickers, a lot of notes. But yeah, it's a really good book. And this is the author. Gorgeous, Ebony Janice. Yeah. So yes, shout out to Toni Morrison. Shout out to Toni Morrison. Shout out to Ebony Janice. Shout out to Angela Davis. Shout out to everybody who went against the grain and said, so what? You don't like my blackness? Here's more of it. So what? Who doubled down on who they were, who always knew that who they were was sacred, sovereign, important, beautiful. That they were not what white people imagine black people to be. That they are not confined to a white man's imagination. Shout out to Toni Morrison for showing us the way. Shout out to Toni Morrison for remaining raw and honest and for talking to us and not for us. We love you. All right, so hope you got something from this. Make art for the end of the world. Keep making art and stop centering the white gaze. Stop it. Stop it. Stop centering the white gaze in your art. Center your own gaze. Center your own perspective. We need what's real and what's honest and authentic. Help us to reach the inside of ourselves by reaching the inside of yourself first. You know? All right. Anything more, I'll probably create another video. But until then, keep creating, keep making, because what you make and what you create matters. And beyond that, you matter. Even if you never made or created anything ever again, you matter. Okay? Talk to you later. Bye.